Hello everyone, welcome to Deep Reading with Roald Dahl, Volume 1. My name is Brian Teacher, and I'm going to be talking about Fantastic Mr. Fox. Today, we're going to be talking about Chapter 1, The Three Farmers, and we're going to be talking about bad guys, also known as villains, okay? Now, villains are bad guys. Every good story should have a hero and at least one villain. In this case, there are three. Now, let's take a look at some villains in movie history. If you know any of these villains, you can tell just by looking at them that they are bad guys. Their eyes are sneaky. They seem to be plotting something. They look greedy. They look scary. They look mean. Okay? Now, these characters all look really different, but let's take a look at this book, Fantastic Mr. Fox, where the characters are all farmers. How does Roald Dahl manage to make these characters stand out from each other? They're all farmers, but they're all a little different. Okay? So today's main focus is about bad guys. We're going to be talking about keywords and description. All right. Now, let's say you've already read the book at home. Great job. I'm not going to read it. You guys should read it at home. And we're just going to focus on chapter 1 right now. But I'm going to tell you what parts you should be paying attention to. So, first, there are three farmers. Here they are. Here's Bean, here's Bogus, and here's Bunce. Okay? Now, as we learned, Bogus is very fat. He has chickens. Bunce is very short. He's a dwarf, which means he's very short, almost like the size of a child. And then, there he is, making his donuts. And then we have Bean, who is super tall and skinny, and we later find out he's the smartest of them all. And he drinks cider all day, every day, and doesn't even eat any food. Okay, that's why he's so skinny. So we find out about what they look like and what they eat. And this is how Roald Dahl helps us remember who each one of these bad guys is, because otherwise, how would we know the difference? Their names are just Bunce, Bogus, and Bean, but in our minds, it would be hard to imagine the difference between them because they're all farmers, right? Now, let's go to our deep reading book, and we're going to read this part on page 12, and this is the lesson we're going to be focusing on today. So this I am going to read with you. So again, if you've read chapter 1 of Fantastic Mr. Fox, you got introduced to the three bad farmers, and you learned about what they like to eat and what they look like, and you also got to sing this really awesome song, which I'll sing along with you as we read. All right, let's go. Have you ever read Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl? Then you probably know that in the first chapter of Fantastic Mr. Fox, there's a description of the three farmers who serve as the villains of the novel. Again, remember what villain means? Remember this vocab word. It means bad guy. It's the opposite of hero, okay? There are heroes and there are villains. From the start of the book, we can see that they are greedy, mean, and lousy men. Lousy just means really bad. They're so mean, the children in the village even sing a song about them that goes like this. Bogus and Bunce and Bean, one fat, one short, one lean. These horrible crooks, so different in looks, were nonetheless equally mean. That's the way I imagine the song going in my head. Maybe you sing it differently, but it's a fun song to sing. I sing it every day in the shower. Let's go back to the passage. Roald Dahl was a master at creating characters. This is more difficult than you might imagine. At the beginning of Fantastic Mr. Fox, the reader is introduced to the three bad guys all at once. Roald Dahl had to make sure that the reader wouldn't get them confused or mix them up. To do this, Roald Dahl used interesting descriptions to help his readers remember each character. First, he made each farmer look different. Now here, I'm going to start underlining key words. We talked about keywords a little bit, but just as a reminder, they are important words in the story, or they can also be in the questions or in the answer choices. Now, the trick to finding keywords is don't just underline the whole thing. That doesn't help. That's just coloring. You have to find the important words and just underline 1 or 2 at a time, or 3 at most, which I did. Okay? Bogus is the fat one. Bunce is the short one. Bean is the tall and skinny one. Okay, that was more than 3 words, but you understand what I'm saying. He also described each farmer by the food that they eat. Bogus eats chicken and dumplings. Bunce eats disgusting donuts filled with goose livers, and Bean likes cider. Okay, these are keywords. They may or may not help me answer the questions, but now I at least know if they come up in the question, I know where to find them, right? This is important because when all 3 characters are talking at once, the reader must know which farmer is which. Just by knowing which farmer likes which food, it is easy for the reader to remember who each farmer is. The brilliant illustrations by Quentin Blake really help as well. Even though it doesn't seem important to know what each farmer eats, this is Roald Dahl's trick to get you to remember who each farmer is. Next time you write a story, try to write one with 3 characters. Choose something special about each character that will help the reader remember who they are. They can have a funny voice, or wear gold-colored shoes, or smell like rotten fish. Try it and see for yourself. Okay, so now let's get into it. We're going to be looking for keywords today. That's going to help us to answer the questions. When we find the keywords, we're going to go back into the passage and read the part where the keyword was found. And it's like a treasure hunt. It's like finding that little piece of gold and then digging more and finding the treasure. In this case, the treasure would be our answer. We're also going to practice crossing off bad answer choices. Now, usually there are at least 2 bad answer choices out of 4. And then you're going to be left with one that seems correct and one that is correct. We want the one that is correct. Let's look at the first question. According to the passage, what did Roald Dahl focus on to help readers remember who each farmer is? Now, I've already highlighted the keyword for you, and so what we do is we go back up to the passage and find the keyword. Here it is, okay? And then we read the information that's around the keyword, because that is where our treasure is. We find the gold, we dig around the gold, we find the treasure, okay? Let's look at it. He's talking about the food that they eat. Bogus eats chicken and dumplings. Bunce eats disgusting donuts with goose livers. Bean likes cider. Okay, so food. Let's see. Which one is talking about food? Does it talk about the sounds of their voices? Nope, we don't hear anything about someone has a raspy voice or a soft voice or a loud voice. That's out. We're crossing that off. No good. The kind of clothes that they wore? Doesn't say anything about their clothes. Interesting foods that they ate? Yes. Illustrations by Quentin Blake? Wait a second. Didn't they mention that? You see, this is where a reading passage might try to trick you. Let's read it again carefully, okay? Let's see. It says, the brilliant illustrations by Quentin Blake really help as well. And you would say, wait, is that correct? But here it says, what did Roald Dahl focus on? This is what Quentin Blake is doing. He's a different person. So even though it seems correct, it's not. The answer is C. Okay, let's go to the next one. Which of the following ideas show that Roald Dahl is a master of description? You know exactly what each character looks like. Now notice what I'm doing here. I'm underlining keywords in the answer choice. That's also important. You know what each character is thinking. Okay, thinking, looks like. You know, you can imagine the characters when they're talking, and you can know if they're good or bad. I don't think it mentioned anything like that. You can, when you see the characters' names, you can remember what they like to eat. Okay, well, we should know that answer is D, right? But which ones are the bad answer choices? Okay, let's look at it again because we have to practice crossing off bad answer choices. That's really helpful. Do we know what they're thinking? No. Do we know what if they're good or bad by the way they're talking? No. Do we know what they look like? We do know what they look like, but again, do we know exactly what they look like? Okay, this is the better answer choice. This one, okay? Sometimes it seems correct, but you have to think about which one is better. You have to pick the one that is best, okay? So that is really important. How does the writer feel about Quentin Blake? Okay, now here's our keyword, Quentin Blake. And when we go back here, we have to think, if we're trying to know what an author feels, just make it simple in your own head, in your own mind, and just think, does the author think, and the author in this case, it's me because I wrote this book, not Roald Dahl, but does Brian think that Quentin Blake is good or bad? Okay, it's that simple. How do you feel about potato chips? Good or bad? How do you feel about skiing? Good or bad? How do you feel about balloons? Good or bad? You know, whatever it is, just make it really simple. Good or bad? Good or bad? Now, to know if it's good or bad, look at the words in the sentence. Does it seem like it's good or bad? Brilliant. Well, that seems pretty good. Really helped. That seems pretty good. Okay, ding, ding, ding. It's good. All right. Now, then we look at the keywords in the answer choices to think of it, to know whether it's good or bad. Okay, silly. That doesn't sound very good. He's a fan. Okay, ding, ding, ding. That sounds good. Let's put a check next to that. That might be correct. He should have helped. Hey, you should have helped me. Does that sound good? Nah. The writer thinks Quentin Blake was Roald Dahl's Humper, but nothing more. Nothing more. That's not good. Okay, so it's B. Can you imagine Roald Dahl saying to Quentin Blake, why aren't you helping me write? All you're doing is drawing pictures. That would be interesting to watch. But anyway, now we're on number 4. We can guess from the author's recommendation. Recommendation is saying, hey, you should do something. You should do something. For students to write their own story that... Okay, now here it's quite long. And so we have to go back to this part. This is where the author is giving their recommendation. What is the author saying? What is Brian teacher saying? Hey, next time you write a story, try to write one with 3 characters. Choose something special about each character that will help the reader remember who they are. Okay? And then that's the main idea. And the rest of this, they're just details and examples. Okay? Normally, unless the question is specifically asking about the details or examples, that's not part of the answer. You always want to focus on the main idea. And so I want you here to pick the 2 answer choices that you will cross off. That's your challenge. That's your homework. And then pick the answer. I'm going to tell you what the correct answer is in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. And my challenge to you in real life, for real, is next time you write a story, try to use more than 1 character, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's a bit much. But try to make each one of those characters different. Now, it might take a long time to do that. If you're writing and writing and writing and trying to tell all about their life, you don't have to do that. Just focus on one detail that makes it easy for the reader to remember your character. Funny hat, smells like fish, gold shoes, big ears, whatever it is, okay? And make each character different and then give them a fun name, a silly name, okay? Or it could be a normal name. It could be Bob. It could be Joe. It could be Sally. But just make sure that they have one thing about them that the reader can remember. And again, cross off these 2 answer choices, pick the right one, and you can check in the answer key if you really want to know what the answer is, or you can just read in the description under this video after you've done it. Okay, and keep following, keep watching, keep reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye!